So, thank you for joining me. We have today on the Social Work Race podcast. We're dealing with all things social work and on the front line. I just want to thank Jasneth for joining me.
Yes. You're most welcome. Very happy to be here.
Okay, and this is, we're going to be ourselves on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know Jasneth is all about that. So, you know, we talk all things social work, frontline work. We also talk to service users or people who have been in the system, people who have been well acquainted with the system of care. It's going to be an interesting discussion today. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting because Jasneth has been in the system.
I have. Many moons ago, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you've got a few things going on, which we're going to look at in a moment. Tell us who you are in a snapshot. I don't want to go into it.
All right, then. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here today. A little bit about myself. My name is Jasneth Richards, also known as the Infinite Woman, which is one of my brands. You can find me on Instagram. She is Jasneth or Infinite Woman. I am a mother of 5 children and also a grandmother of a 7-month-old baby. My daughter had a baby not too long ago. What else can I say about me? I'm an author. I'm an author. And yeah, that's the me in a nutshell. I just thrive on really sharing my story and really helping people out to just be authentic, hot, humble, open and transparent. So yeah, you can definitely find all that I do at She Is Jasneth on Instagram. That would help there.
She is Jasneth. We're gonna have to create that too. Just
do She Is Jasneth, and the rest my profile will link them to everything else. So that's fine. There you go.
So the thing is, we're playing it down, and I want everyone to know, because I'm a social worker. Jasneth has met social workers. We're going to go into your story in a moment.
Yeah.
Hopefully, any negative experience you've had in the past, don't put it on me. It's not my fault. I didn't do it.
I'm not going to make you wear the t-shirt. I won't paint you with all the same brush.
Oh man, it's easily done. But everything you've said just now, and I don't think people have probably captured it so much. Technically and statistically, you should be on alcohol, drugged out.
Listen, I should be on crack, shaking my booty in a strip club, because the mere fact of it is, growing up in care from the age of 3 to 16 was not easy. It comes with a lot of stigma. It also comes with a lot of emotional and mental issues that you don't actually recognize in the time, because you're quite naive, you're young, until latter in life. And you know, I dealt with a lot of rejection, the embarrassment of being in care. I think that was very embarrassing for me. I don't know where that embarrassment came from, but it was just like, these are not my parents kind of thing. And you know, having to go to different meetings and things with different people every time and be in the same school, and it was quite traumatic, actually, when I think about it, just being in primary school and seeing my friends' parents coming to pick them up, and actually knowing that they are their biological parents and I don't live with mine. There's always a daily reminder of that. And I just became a real rebel, because there was no sense of belonging. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know, I knew who my mother and father was, and I knew my family. But it was even worse that, because it's the fact of the matter of, well, I have family, so why am I in care? Why is it that my mum's got a sister, or my mum's got a brother, or my dad's got sisters, and like, why am I in care? But I honestly am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and it shaped me to be the woman that I am today. But yeah, it's not easy.
You're killing us. You're killing us. The question I have for you is, and I'm going to ask you some personal questions.
No problem.
And I'm going to ask you questions that are formed in the light of people who don't understand. So it's going to sound ignorant, my question, but they're deliberately posed like that.
Right.
Why were you placed in care?
Okay, so my mum suffered with mental illness, to what I know now as being schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So she was unable to look after me. I remember stages of my life where I would be in my mum's house, and it was just certain behaviours. Now looking back, that I'd actually recognise that, oh, there was definitely something wrong with there. Just one example is that I know that my mum would be in the bathroom and she'd just be bathing for hours, just scrubbing her skin for hours and hours and hours. And I'm just like, now looking back, it's like, it doesn't make sense. And just thinking about the trauma that she had been through, because at the time I didn't know, I now understand why her actions were such ways. So yeah, my mum was not well. My dad, he was always around, tried to fight for me, but I don't know the reason as to why he never got me. But he wasn't able to look after me either. So I was put on a full care order. I don't even know what number it was, something 30 something. I don't know if they've changed it now, but I was on a full care order basically. So just, I ended up in care. But no one ever really told me why. I didn't know this until my latter years in life as to why I was in care. And I looking back, probably wasn't something that you'd sit down a child and tell them you're in care because your mum's not well mentally. But I think that maybe my memory doesn't serve me well, but I feel like there could have been a lot more work in that. I mean, I remember things like going to the NSPCC, and playing in this room, and then you've got like this glass and you know that somebody's there and it's like they're observing you. There are so many things that I've gone through that I'm just
you remember
I actually remember, and I never used to really speak, never really used to say much. I would just sit there and play. And even till this day now, I'm actually like doing a series on Instagram called 90 Days of Brave, and literally it just feels like God is taking me through a metamorphosis where I'm actually looking back at things and actually realizing things. There are certain things that will just, it could be music, it could be a space or a place that you'll go to and you will get a flashback of your life, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's why this happened, or that's what, why certain things happened. So yeah, that's the reason why I know that I was brought up in care, because my mum wasn't very well at all.
Roughly, if you don't mind, roughly how old are you now?
Oh, no problem. So I know I look 21, but I'm 36. I'm 36 now. So I grew up in care from 3 to 16.
How many homes did you stay in, do you think?
Oh, wow. I had 2 main homes that I was in my younger days, but then in my teens going up, I think I moved to about 4 different carers and 2 children's homes, and then I was in a mother and baby unit. Did you bond with anyone as like a parent figure? Absolutely. My family. When did that happen? It happened when it was happening, but realized how much it happened as I've got into my latter years of life. Like many of my cousins, you would never know that they're not my blood cousins. I grew up with a phenomenal family called the Carringtons, and till this day I can knock the door, call my aunties, get invited to functions, and I'm just their niece. I'm just their, I lost my grandfather, unfortunately. How long ago is it now? I think I've got the thing up there. It was 2018, and that was quite interesting for me because he was the last of my elder generation. So, my biological granddad, God rest his soul, he was somebody that physically would come and visit me at every home. Like he's the one that really kept my family alive in a sense, or my real biological family alive in my mind, like almost like a fantasy where it was just like, okay, there's somebody that I have. He would come and take me and bring me to visit my mum in hospital. When my mum had my brother, he was the one that took me to visit my brother, and to meet my brother.
So you have siblings?
Yeah, so I have a brother, same mum, different dad. So yeah, he's where we didn't grow up together, but like he can knock my door, I can knock his door, it's fine. But I think that, honestly speaking, I don't think that the bond has been there or is there because just the fact that we grew separately, and then came in each other's lives in the latter years of our lives, and then in the latter years of your life, you then have your own stuff that you're dealing with. So it's not like you can really push forth that time to kind of like create that bond. But yeah, he's
So what you're saying is that granddad was the one that kind of linked you and kept you linked to
my
family.
family. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Did you grow up with any resentment?
Absolutely. Funny enough, it's one of the videos that I'm going to do later about seeing my dad as a superhero, and really wanting and now and I say these things as in these were the former thoughts, not now the thoughts that I have now. But I saw my dad, I thought he should have saved me. I really felt like he should have been a superhero. Like, why didn't you get me? Like, why was I brought up in care? But looking back in retrospect, really, he was the one that was always trying. Just like my granddad would come and visit me and do whatever. Yeah, well, he did his best into the capacity that he could.
Yeah.
So he would visit me at different homes. Sometimes I was able to go to my dad's on like weekends, more like holidays. When I was in my teens, I'd be able to go and visit my dad like Christmas and things like that. And he just always tried his best and went all out for me. So yeah.
Okay. So it's interesting that we can grow up with resentment just because we don't understand.
Absolutely.
And so when you look at social workers, I don't know if you can count how many you might have had, but do you think that you were a challenge for social workers?
That's interesting. Probably was, but I more remember the teen years of my life. So when I was in a children's home, and yeah, I had social workers, but I think it was my key workers or the people that worked in my children's home that got most of the brunt of my anger and things of that nature. I'll tell you about that. When I was younger, I remember having individual social workers that might take me out somewhere or whatever, but I just was very quiet. But within like my children's home, I was awful. I was just angry at everyone. But there were two significant people that were in my children's home to this day that are actually godparents to my children. That I don't believe that without them in that part of my life, I probably would have went a complete different direction. I felt as though they were my aunties and uncles. They went all out for me, probably in ways that probably broke the rules, went to their home, their families' houses and things like that. And they just went out for me. And I think there was just something that they saw in me. One of my key workers really knew that I had a passion to sing, took me to a studio, and they just wanted to draw the best out of me. And I think that it's really difficult for key workers, social workers that, have to follow the laws of the land or follow the rules. And, sometimes not following the rules can get you in significant problems, but not following the rules can also get you into a different space or place. So it just really depends. But yeah, they were definitely a significant part of my story, one that I would never forget. And till this day, there are people who I'm in contact with now, and they're just so proud to see where I am now. And then there are those that really deserve the behavior that I gave. Those that you could, because for children, honestly, as much as you might think we are naive, we can pick up on when people are just doing the job just to do the job. We can pick up when this person doesn't really want to work with us. We can pick up when a person properly goes out for us. We can pick up when you're talking about us in the staff room. We can pick up when, you generally just don't physically want to work with us, or you favoritize another child than another. Look, we pick up on these things.
So let me ask you that. What was a key worker or social worker supposed to do with your anger? And I want to move on to the anger part. And don't get me wrong, you may not know the answer, but any thoughts that you have, because this is going to be informing other people, other professionals in the game.
I think it's, for me, like, I had a lot of anger, built up anger. I mean, you know,
from what was that about? Was it to do with anything to do with, like, you know, being in care?
I think that definitely to do with being in care, the embarrassment of being in care, just being around people that probably didn't want to be around me, being around other children. Living in a children's home wasn't the greatest. Some of the people were all right in there, some of them weren't. I could have been dealing with self-esteem issues. You know, at one point in my primary school, I was bullied. In secondary school, I just became the rebel. I was just fighting any and anybody. Like, nobody could play no games with me. Got excluded from school twice. Once in secondary, about year 8, I got kicked out of my school permanently. Hurt a teacher while fighting, accidentally, but she was bruised, and they were just like, no, like, because I was always fighting, and they really did what they could, their best for me, but I think that was the last straw. Then I went to a pupil referral unit, and I just think one great thing with my life is that every single step and hurdle that I've taken, there's been this just one person or two that have just been like, almost like angels that were just there.
What does that mean?
Meaning those
describe
people
their
that
characteristics
just went out for me, you know, just were genuinely true, you know, would have my best interest at heart, you know, would take time out to speak with me, would, you know, tell me really when I'm wrong and when I'm not, kind of thing, like keep it real with me. And I think that's what's necessary. And also just not speaking to children as though they're just children, but actually recognizing that they have thoughts, they have feelings, they are quite mature in ways in which they are in ways in which they're going through things and how it affects them, and they're quite intuitive. They actually get what's happening around them and not really take them for them being just kids that are just in care, that know no better, or just rebels. What's the cause? What's the reason? Why are you upset? Why are you angry? What's really going on here? Like, let's talk about this, like, kind of thing.
You know what it is? Because professionals, I'm sad to say the term professionals, but that's what we are, I guess. Frontline workers, we don't always know how to navigate that. But you're giving us clues. You're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, you're saying, even though it's not clear at the time, just keep being genuine with me.
Yeah, and also just the longevity really does work well, the bond. I think that a lot of people or children in care, they have a social worker, then they're gone, they've moved on, then they've got somebody else, and it's like, as soon as that person gets used to that person, then that person's gone, then you've changed their key worker, and it's just like, if it's not broken, then why don't fix it? I get some people have to leave and things of that nature, but I feel like sometimes, and it might sound bizarre, when people see that people are actually good for a specific child, sometimes in my days, people didn't like that. They, you know, it might sound very cliche, but it just feels like when a child is with a good person, somehow or some way, teachers, it just seems to always happen, something gets torn away from them, and that builds up more trauma, that builds up more anxiety, that builds up more rejection. And I just think that when you have looked after children, try your best to keep them with that specific person as long as possible. All the moving around and all that kind of stuff is traumatic, really, really traumatic. So yeah.
I got to get you back on the show because we're going to deal with this. This is a big thing. For me, it's a big thing. It's tough because social workers, they've got the highest sick rate of all professionals. They change their jobs because it's too much.
overwork
in terms of
and
caseload, and then that is impacting on the people that they're working with the most. So it's a mad cycle.
overworked and underrated is social workers. And
And key workers. I think the key workers on the front line and care staff.
absolutely, and paid less, but we won't go
Yeah.
there.
Well, that is for another show. I'll have you on.
We won't go there.
So,
But I feel as though, because I was also a key worker myself, so I've gone full circle, ended up working in children's homes,
right.
working with difficult children and so forth, and sometimes being on the receiving end of it, you can kind of get as to how the person might feel and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's an interesting journey. It really is interesting. And yeah,
so let me dig in. I'm gonna ask you some tough questions. Why did... So you're saying how old now? 30 what?
36.
36. So you actually are young.
And
now you're telling me you're a grandma.
Yeah.
So tell me about when you had your first child.
So I had my first child at the age of 15, but I always have to track back and let people know that could have been my third child. I was pregnant at 13. I had an abortion, had a miscarriage at the age of 14, and then by 15, I had my first child. So there was a lot of already trauma there concerning just being pregnant, and this was in my children's home. I remember it like it was yesterday, just losing a child. And I remember one of the key workers, I had to call one of my friends that were in the room next door, and I just said, can you call so and so? I remember her name was Renata. She was one of the managers, and I said, can you call her please? And she came upstairs and she was like, oh my gosh. And then I had to go in the ambulance. It was all this drama. And it's like these things happen, and then it's just next kind of thing. It's like you're moving on. And I just feel like nobody ever really spoke to me about sex. Nobody spoke to me about contraception or, getting pregnant and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like a lot of the times children in care are very, like, in a sense, like sugar coated. And I feel as though there would be a lot more things that they could learn about if they were just treated with a little bit more maturity, in a sense of talking to them about specific things like sex, like boys and all that kind of stuff. And that's what the key workers need to be doing, keeping it real. But there are too many rules and regulations and things that are put in place that, for me, set children up to fail. You can't talk to them about this. You can't do this. You can only do this. Or if you do this, you have to do it in a certain environment. If that's your child, if I'm in the system, though, you've taken me into the system to be looked after by you lot. So as far as I'm concerned, I am your responsibility. And if that was your child, although there are certain things, boundaries, such as obviously touching, hugging and all that kind of stuff, even with that is another issue in itself. But things like having real talk with and conversations, does it have to be so strategic, so rationalized, not so
clinical,
restricted? Yeah, like you're never going to get anywhere with these children if you continue to move this way with them. It's not going to work. Because what's going to happen if you don't teach them, society will teach them. That's just it. That's just that is period. That's just what's going to happen. And then you're going to get children coming in pregnant, going out with roadmen or whatever. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with roadmen, but whatever. But the point of the matter is they're going with specific people that are not conducive for them, but you're giving them no example. Like you're giving them no direction. All you're doing is feeding them, doing the weekly meetings, writing down what you need to write down, and not really investing in them, making sure they got their hair products and their toiletry money. And that's just it. It just seems very routine, very ritualistic, very robotic. And that's a bit of the problem for me personally.
Let me. I told you we're gonna have to have you back because you're raising issues here, and I'm not qualified because I've never been in care. And you have the right to, whether you're right or wrong, voice it. and let's talk about it. So again, I'm going to prick you again. You've had your first child at 15. How can you then go and have a second one and a third one?
To 5.
Up to 5. I won't go all the way up to 5. How can you do that constantly?
I don't think it was a thing of how can I do it constantly, but I was in a relationship. Nobody, this is just, for me, it's happening. I mean, by my third child, I knew exactly what was happening, but at that time, I was old enough to make my own decisions. I was in my 20s.
What was happening?
What do you mean, like, what was happening?
You said you knew exactly what was happening.
In terms of, like, by now, obviously, I know that I could fall pregnant, etc., etc. But as far as I'm concerned, me and my partner's in a relationship. And, you know, we're doing what I would deem as just doing life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember I don't know, just being, now looking back, I can say, like, this is definitely supposed to be a part of my story. But at the time, it was just like, well, this is what happens in life. This is what you do. I wasn't the first person to have children. My peers around me were all having children. You know, it just seemed like the normal thing. Now looking back, I can see that I had no sense of direction. You know, nobody ever really spoke to me about it. People would badmouth you about it, but not actually tell you why it was bad. And I'm not saying that it is bad to be a teen mum, but I do believe that, you know, things could have been avoided if there was more direction, if I was schooled more, if people took more time to actually speak to me about boys and sex and all that kind of stuff, and the realness of motherhood, how this is a lifetime. It's not just now, you know. So yeah, why? I was just doing life, literally just doing life.
I don't think that's uncommon. I think that is the mode that people are in. Even if you don't have children, I think a lot of people are just in a mode of, this is what we're doing. Babies come along. Babies are easy to have.
They're not easy to look after though. But yeah.
You know more than me. I've only got 3. But they're not easy. Even in a perfect setup, they're not easy. How are your kids doing now?
They are doing well. You know, by God's grace, I've been able to raise them very well. You know, I think, to be honest, right now is one of the most difficult seasons of parenting, because all my children are at different ages and stages, different needs. They're like, my daughter, one of them's 20 with a child now. We've got a 17-year-old. She's going through her own stuff. I've got my son now growing up, deep voice, 14, thinking he's grown folk. I've got my other daughter, 12, transitioned into secondary school. And then I've got my son in primary school, just by himself now, not with his siblings, trying to find himself. So it's been very interesting and very challenging, to say the least. But not impossible. And, you know, just having to kind of put myself in 2-point mode, where it's just like, well, I understand how it could feel for being that age. And I can also understand, and I think a lot of stuff that we do as parents is we make comparisons. And sometimes I'm like to my daughter, bruh, you ain't been through nothing, and you're sitting here talking about you're this and you're that. But everybody has their own triggers. Everybody has their own traumas. Everybody deals with things differently. And, you know, I've had to kind of take myself out of the mode of making the comparison of the fact that I've brought them up. They're still with their biological parent, because that was something that I thrived for. And that was something that was one of my faiths, but also one of my fears. And it was like, I am not going to have any of my children going to care, but one of my fears was, what if they do? And that was at the point where I knew that God was in my life, because I remember a point where I was going to commit suicide because I was just so overwhelmed. And I just remember hearing God say, you will not die and your children will be put into care. And I just put down the tablets. I was going to overdose myself, and I just said, you know what? This is something that I need to do. I need to pull up my big girl pants and I need to just get on. And I will never forget that, because that was one of my fears. And I just feel as though, life has a funny way of doing a 360, especially in parenting, and actually seeing you in the reflection of your children, or just seeing how you were. So yeah, it's been very interesting. But they are well. They are all well. They are well looked after. They have more than enough. Sometimes I wish I was like them, but yeah, they're good. They are really good.
It's obvious they're doing well.
Yeah.
Your number one piece of advice to social workers?
I think my number one piece of advice to social workers or up and coming social workers is don't go into it lightly. Don't go into it because it's a stable career, because you think that it's going to pay the bills, or also that you feel as though you're going to come in and just solely come in with like, I'm going to make a change, because it's only until you actually experience the work and the load that comes with it and the children and all that kind of stuff, then that you can really authentically say you're going to make change. I would have loved to have made change, but social working wasn't for me. For me personally, it's doing things like going in and speaking to social workers about looked after children. That would be something that I'd be passionate about doing. And just don't go into it just because you have to be passionate about the job. And when I look back and I'm like, some of the key workers that I was with, they've been in this game for 20, 30 years and haven't moved. That's passion to me.
That's passion. Definitely.
That's definitely passion. So, I would just say that if you are a social worker, yes, there are boundaries, yes, there are rules, yes, there are regulations. But one, examine yourself. Do you really want to do this? Is this something that you really want to do longevity? Are you passionate about it? And lastly, I would just say, really go far and beyond within the parameters for this child as much as you can. Make the time that you're with them very memorable, and not just ticking off tick boxes, but be different, do something different. That's what I would say.
I've got 2 more sections to look at. I want you to speak to other mothers out there who are marginalized, people who are maybe, single mothers. It's a mad time. I want you to speak to a mother who is where you was at your lowest for a minute. Talk to them for a minute, and with your words, just bring them out, if you can, from where they are.
Well, I think for people right now, because definitely in the climate that we're in, especially the pandemic, there is a saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. And I think when I was growing up and looking after my children, I did not ask for help. I felt like I needed to be independent. If help came, I wouldn't push it away, but I would never ask. And that village that you have around you, even if it's a neighbor, a friend, or somebody, be humble, open, and transparent about where you are. Because this parenting thing is much bigger than you. We're raising leaders, we're raising entrepreneurs, we're raising children that are going to be the next generation. And I understand that it's really hard. I understand that you might be going through, but I really want to encourage people to never give up. Try and want to be different. I think one of the best things that I did was to write letters, write journals, write to your future self. Do whatever you need to do to get to that place and that person that you want to be, because it is a battle of the mind. I was saying to others, going through university and finishing my degree wasn't about my age, it wasn't about my maturity, but really about my mental stance. And you have to thrive as a mother to ensure that you take time for you. Even if it's an hour a day, half an hour a day, whatever it is, just to have your time, because mentally we are fighting a battle of, are we good enough? Can I really do this? I don't think that this is possible. You know, these children are getting on my last nerves. Like, there's so many things. How am I going to get electricity and gas and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And literally, you just have to take it one day at a time. You know, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. But just be in that moment. And be okay to know that you can begin again. And I'm talking about begin again, not, 6-7 months down the line, but every day is a chance to do it better. If you feel like little Joey was getting on your nerves and you dealt with him in the wrong way, don't be afraid to apologize to your children. And just be easy on yourself. Be easy on yourself. Parenting, we are our biggest critics. And I just want mothers to just be encouraged to know that it is possible. And if you've got these children, you've been entrusted with them for a reason, and you can do it. And it's all about your mind. It's all about your mind. Work on your mind. Read books. Listen to things that encourage you. Because, we got little people watching us. We really have.
That's a word. We have them. They are watching us. They're not just listening to what we say. They're watching what we do.
And trust me, listen, I'm battling it every day. As I said, every day. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect. But you know what? I'm doing my best, and God is doing the rest, And that's why I also wrote my book as well.
Come on, let's get it up. Let's get it up.
Time to share that, which is called The 10 Factor Mum, a guide for single mums. And I wrote this because everybody used to ask me, how do you do it with 5 children? And I always used to say, by the grace of God, but no one really understood what that meant. So I decided to write 10 factors of how I parent my children. Things like time to forgive, prayer, meditation, embracing the change, like organization and structure, taking time out for you, family time, mothering on purpose, and all that good stuff. And for all of those who want to know my business, some of it is in here, but it's not. It's just to help you to understand what I was going through and the processes that it took to get me to where I needed to go. So yeah, you see my story in here. A little bit, not more about care, but more about my children's father and how it was to parent after being left with 5 children. So yeah, it's
too deep.
Yeah, I don't even feel like I've even covered half of my story. It's crazy.
You haven't. That's why you have to come back.
It's absolutely crazy.
I should have put this background on, innit? This is why you have to come back. I mean, I'm trying to hold it down because I'm a man. I will ask questions all night. All right, listen. I'm going to make a statement. I want you to finish it in a sentence.
Okay.
So you have to reflect hard. Probably you could say the less you say is the more you say. I am
fearfully and wonderfully made.
I will
continue to do my best and allow God to do the rest.
I can.
This sounds really cliche, but do all things through Christ that strengthen me.
I have
the ability to do everything that God has purposed me to do.
Okay, so that was deep. You know how it is. Finally, just tell us what you're doing. Tell us where we can find you. Tell us about your account. In fact, tell us about what you've done and tell us about what you're doing, and then we'll go on to where we can find you and so forth. What are you doing with yourself now? You're a Christian, obviously.
I am. I do love the Lord, and it's really difficult, not saying that I need to, but to leave him out of it, because it is through him that I've been able to be the woman that I am today. And he was there even when I didn't know that he was there. And as I said, I'm an author, in the process of waiting to get my second book edited. So that's going to be coming out in 2022. Currently, I am actually transitioning out of a job. I am a school officer for social work. So that was quite interesting, going through the processes of, people that want to come and study social work and the interviewing processes and all that, speaking with people that have lived experience and all that good stuff. And I just feel like in this season, this is a lot of stuff that's what's happening with me, is talking about, my care experience. I thrive in helping women. So Infinite Woman is my brand, which helps women to just share their story and be their true, authentic selves. And at the moment, I'm working on a workshop that helps women with financial money management. So money management. So financial literacy. And, little things like that. There are so many things that I just wish people would do to set up young people especially that grow up in care, just children in general. But that's what I'm working on, and just going to be just pushing my brand from now on. So you can find me at She Is Jasneth, and I just push out content to help women to be the best that they can be. And that is just what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just a hustler. I have so many hands. I plait hair. I do it all.
Let me tell you. Yeah. Hard life does make us to bring out the best in us. If we can survive and choose to survive, we are the most resilient.
Absolutely. Looking
at you doesn't look like you've been through it, but your story is serious, and that is why you are so resilient. And there needs to be more of you put out there. I'm going to see if I can find a platform for that, so that you can work with people on a grander scale. So I'm happy to work with you. My little one wants to come in because she wants to come and get some snacks. Jo, come and get it then. And
that was me yesterday.
What's that?
I was online and my children just came in. I was just like,
yeah. You just have to hold your hands up now.
You have to just bless them.
You just have to hold your hands up now, because it's only when I'm doing a live that they want to come in and get
they want the snack.
What do you want?
Oh, bless them.
Yeah, well, give me a minute then. So, take it. But don't take it then. So, Jasneth, we're gonna have you back, man. We're gonna have you back.
I'd love to come back. Definitely.
Yeah, and we're gonna do this on a bigger scale. But and I'm gonna get you also on our other show with Little Black Book.
Okay.
Love you. You know about that?
I know Little Black Book, but I don't know.
Don't watch that. I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
We're gonna get you on one evening. With This Is Marriage UK, we have discussions around relationships.
Okay.
Need your input. Thank you for joining us
You are most
on
welcome.
the Social Work Race. There is more to come. People, visit her page on Instagram. Like it. Follow it, or follow them. Is it both of them? Is it Infinite?
No, you can follow both of them, but She Is Jasneth will link you to all of my pages. Cool. So
let's go to that page, guys, and support it, because we have to support each other. It doesn't cost a thing, but it helps a lot.
Just a button.
Love it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor.
No, thank you. We'll see you soon, guys. Take care, and I'll see you on the next podcast.